This episode is all about podcasting. Welcome back to the Take 148 podcast. I'm excited to share with you this interview with Madison McCann, who's the owner of SpeakEasy Productions. Madison is a podcast producer and someone here at 148 Studios that we've grown a great relationship with over the past year and a half as she's brought her own clients into this space to record. So we've talked off mic a lot about the industry, but I finally got her on mic to have those same conversations. As always, we would love for you to like, subscribe, follow, all the things on whatever platforms that you're engaging with us on. And check us out on our website, 148studios.co. There's a podcast tab there. And then as always, we're here in 148 Studios. So if you have any interest in a production space and you're in the Southeastern United States, check us out. The same website, 148studios.co. Welcome to the Take 148 podcast, produced by 148 Films. Join us as we explore video production, creative storytelling, and the real stories behind the lens.
About to get real good.
Well, Madison, welcome to the Take 148 podcast. You've been behind the mic a lot.
Yeah.
But now you're on the mic. Surprising to, do you think this is going to be surprising to anybody in your inner circle that knows the podcast world that you work in?
No, I mean, I've done a couple of podcast episodes. I think it'll be more surprising for me because I'm a little rusty. But yeah, I mean, I think I've probably been in the studio more than you have. It's your studio. Honestly.
So for the people that don't know, you're a local podcast producer and we've had you in here. In fact, you just wrapped a session with one of your clients in the same studio. We've flipped everything, lights, graphics, everything to make it ours. But yeah, you spend as much time in here as probably I have, to be honest.
I mean, I was just over there. Now I'm here. Feel like I'm in a completely different role.
Right.
Adjustment, but here we are.
Awesome. So today I want to talk about a lot of things. I really want to get deep into the podcast world because nobody knows it better than you do. You're living it.
I don't know about that, but
hot take.
I'm happy to share.
Well, I do know that you're opinionated on plenty of things, right? You told me so. You're like, ask me some questions. I have opinions.
I did say, yeah. Hey, you want me to share opinions? I have no problem doing that.
Well, then we'll get into that. So in our world of video production, we do pre-production research. You probably do a lot of the same thing when you're working with podcast clients. So we're going to do some pre-production on Madison.
All right.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Easiest questions you'll have all day. Last full book you read?
Wait, these are the easy questions?
Yeah.
Okay. I read a lot of thrillers.
Or audiobook, to be fair.
Yeah, well, usually I'm doing both at the same time because I find if I'm reading the page, my mind will kind of drift. The audiobook keeps me engaged.
So like you're listening to the book
while I'm reading.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Hey.
Or, I'll be washing dishes, taking a walk or whatever too. But last full book was a Holly Jackson thriller book.
A pleasure read. Something to keep you energized.
Yeah, I don't read a lot of nonfiction. I'll usually listen to like business podcast and then I'll go to books for pleasure. Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay. All right. You're on a long road trip, stop at a gas station. What are you grabbing to eat and drink?
Sour gummy worms.
Okay.
And Diet Dr. Pepper.
Diet Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're a Dr. Pepper fan, not a Mr. Pibb fan?
Mr. Pibb. I don't even know if I've had a Mr. Pibb.
That's fair. I don't even know if they have a diet Mr. Pibb.
Surely,
but
I don't know.
I don't see it very often. So, okay.
I don't think I've ever even looked for a Mr. Pibb or had a Mr. Pibb.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I prefer Doctor.
I like the doctor, the good doctor. All right, beach or mountains?
Probably mountains. Though the beach has its place.
All right.
Yeah.
If you're going to the mountains, do you have a favorite place that you like to go? Just anywhere.
No. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. I just
quiet, high elevation.
Quiet, yeah.
Change of scenery.
Out of town, unplugged. That'd be ideal.
Okay, yeah, no Wi-Fi.
Okay. Can't be reached.
Nice. Hey, everybody needs to unplug, right? All right, if you could have lunch with anyone, past or present, dead or alive, who would it be? And what might be the conversation be about?
This isn't even a person, but if I could see my old dog that passed away, Poppy.
Okay.
I'd love to cuddle him one more time.
There you go.
And I just eat lunch and then he can, whatever.
He can have a great lunch with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be sweet.
Okay. I like it. All right. So let's talk about your creative journey. I understand there was some pre-med in there at some point, right?
Oh no, you're calling me out. Yeah.
But talk to me about your creative journey that got you to where you are in podcasting right now. Like, where did all of that begin when you were younger?
Well, oh my gosh, looking back, it makes total sense where I am today, but that was not the plan at all. Whenever I went to college, like you said, I started pre-med and quickly, like within weeks, realized like, oh, this is not
Okay.
this is not gonna work out.
Hey.
And
Better then than years into it, right?
right, but I did really well with my writing classes and public speaking, which that's like the number one fear that people have is
Sure.
public speaking. And I was like, I can get up in front of a class and talk and do speeches, and it was like my highest grade that semester.
Okay.
And so I thought there must be something here. Like let me look into this a little bit more. So I changed my major to communication studies at UT, and eventually over that 4 years, I picked up a minor in entrepreneurship too.
Oh.
With no plan to ever use it. My mom is an entrepreneur, and she always told me, like, just go to college, get a good, stable job. Like, don't start a business. It's so stressful. And then here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are.
No 9 to 5. Was there a 9 to 5 in there between college and where you are now?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I've had 2 jobs before starting my business. And
so what got you to this podcasting world that you're in now? What did that journey look like?
It was not intentional. One of those jobs that I had, they wanted to start a podcast, and I was the one-person marketing team, and so they were kind of like, you got to figure that out. And we did outsource a lot of that work for that first season that we did, but as time went on, I took on more and more responsibilities, and eventually someone reached out to my boss at the time and said, I've been thinking about doing my own podcast. How have you guys done that? I want to, start my own. And my boss said, well, you've got to talk to Madison. And that turned into my first client. And again, at the time, I didn't think that would turn up into anything. But one client turned into 2, turned into 3. And then it took me about 2 years to get the confidence to actually, and the stability, like the client load, to feel comfortable to go full time with it.
Sure.
But I did. And now it's been, as of recording, it's been about 1.5 years that I've been full time with my business. And I wish I would have done it sooner.
There you go. So that entrepreneur track is paying off. Mom was right.
Yeah. No, Mom was wrong.
Oh, that's right. Mom.
It is stressful sometimes, but I really enjoy working for myself and the clients that I have the opportunity to choose. And whenever you work for someone else, you don't necessarily get those options. So
Sure. All right. Now, I know this because we've connected over almost 1.5 years ago, probably.
Mm-hmm.
We opened the studio in July of 24. And I think it was probably just a few months after that is when we first connected through another Madison. Actually,
right, yeah.
Shout out to Madison. He was like, hey, you need to talk to this other Madison who actually knows about podcasting.
Yeah.
I was connected
He always
with.
calls me the other Madison, and I'm like, no, you're the other Madison.
Uh-oh. That's fair.
And we can do that because we're on the Young Professionals of Chattanooga board together, and we have a great friendship.
There you go. But I happen to know that through meeting you and some other people in the podcast space here in the area, that you actually serve a pretty unique audience, like a very specific client, right? So tell me a little bit more about like who your client base is and why you choose to work with the people that you do.
Yeah, mostly business owners. And I prefer that because they have very clear goals. Revenue.
Right?
As opposed to And I love people that do podcasting for their hobby or a passion project or, just a limited series. But I really like taking the vision that a small business has and executing it and then seeing that return on their investment and seeing it go back into their business too.
For sure. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the biggest ways that you can see small business owners gain traction in their market through a podcast? Like, let's say you're talking to a small business owner here, like what's your pitch to me to hire you to help further develop their brand?
Yeah, well, I think there are a couple of pieces with that. And let me just speak to like the mistakes that I see people making with content. One is it's kind of like the last thing on their list to do. And so it's kind of scattered. It's not consistent. And sometimes the quality isn't great either. Like they're just doing it on their phone, which phones are great. But whenever you have your brand reputation on the line, you really have to take it to that next level. So having someone who can fill a producer role and serve as like a sounding board and help you brainstorm ideas that are actually going to move the needle, I think, and maybe I'm biased, but I think it's really critical. And then on the other side of that, I see a lot of people, business owners who do just, what would you call it? Like parasocial content, like the personal brand content, and they never tied their business into it. So people know them, but then whenever you find out what they do professionally or with their business, you're like, wait, I didn't even know that.
There's just a disconnect there.
There is, yeah.
Okay.
People know them, but they don't know what they do, and they might need their services, and they don't even know that someone they know offers that. So I really specialize in bringing those puzzle pieces together, like doing the content that the business owner wants to do and they like doing, and then how do we tie your expertise together so it's something that will move the needle, but you're excited about it, your audience is excited about it, and you want to continue doing it.
All right. So certainly you're not the only podcast producer in the world. There's lots of podcast producers out there, but you happen to be the one sitting across from me on the mic.
Yeah.
So what is your like big picture vision for a client? Like, how do you help them identify next steps and like what's the big picture framework? Obviously we're not talking about secret sauce or any of the details here, but like, how do you help a new client understand what the starting point is to launching a podcast and how to do that successfully and to have long-term success and growth?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's kind of different for everyone because they're starting in different places. Like I'll work with someone, most of my clients that come to me now, they say podcast, but really they want a YouTube channel.
Okay.
And so if they have already been doing content and they have an existing YouTube channel, well, we can accelerate that a lot faster than if we're starting from scratch because you have to train that algorithm. So to answer your question more directly, whenever I start working with a client, I have my launch package where we sit down and we work through a blueprint together and we create all of those guidelines and goals so we can actually have checkpoints to make sure we're accomplishing what we said we want to accomplish. And then we create those branding pieces. We actually get the podcast trailer, intro, all of those assets created, and then start recording. So sometimes I find people, they're so excited to start a podcast and they will rent an hour in the studio and then they'll come to me and say, I have something, I'm ready to launch my podcast. How do I get it out there? And I'm like, whoa, we have like 15 steps before we get there because they haven't done that research to make sure what content they're doing is what people are asking for. So reverse engineering it. Like I said, getting those puzzle pieces to line up. It's not just what you want to put out into the world. That is what I would consider a passion project. And there's room for that too. But I work with people who are trying to do it for their business.
Sure. Yeah. So start with the end in mind. What's the big picture goal? And then work backwards, reverse engineer that.
I will say, I think it's more attainable than people think. You see these podcasters and they have millions of followers on YouTube and Instagram, and by all appearances, it seems like they're really successful, and they probably are. But I have had clients who get a couple of hundred listens, and it's moving the needle for their business because it's their ideal audience, like people who are primed to buy. So you don't have to have thousands. You can. We can do that.
Sure.
But I have this mindset, I would rather 10 people listen to your episode than 10,000 if those 10,000 aren't aligned with what your business is.
They're
and
just
those other 10 are like, they have their credit card out. They're ready to go to your website and buy from you.
Absolutely. All right. So we talked off mic the other day about this, but you'd mentioned some other tools that kind of work in that toolbox along with podcasting from a marketing standpoint. So how can podcasting complement the rest of that marketing package that small businesses, entrepreneurs are putting together?
Yeah, I think what I said to you was, I'm not a podcast purist. I don't think everyone has to have a podcast. Like, some people are really intimidated to show up and be recorded, whether that's with a camera or just a microphone. So I'm not saying you have to have a podcast. I think it is really useful. Of course, I'm going to say,
right.
But realistically, it's such a great medium that I can take this recording and turn it into 20 other marketing assets, as opposed to I can't turn a social media post into 20 other things. So it's really just like a good foundational piece, and everything else can build on top of it. So again, I don't think you have to do a podcast. If you wanted to go all in on a newsletter, I think you should just go all in on one thing and then build everything else like an ecosystem around it. Podcasting is really good for that. But if it's a newsletter, if it's something else, go all in, and then they can all play together.
All right. So as a producer, where are you spending the bulk of your time on, we'll just say, an existing client? Is there a piece of the puzzle in that big picture, content scheduling, whatnot, that like just demands the most of your time day in and day out?
Yeah, it kind of goes in phases. I mentioned that launch package. That that is pretty intensive.
Sure.
And then we move into a production phase. So of course, there's like studio time, and in those first couple of episodes, which could take, weeks or a couple of months, I'm actually helping my clients with their content outlines. I'm not a fan of scripts, but I'll help them outline, we want to make sure we hit these bullet points. And so the content planning piece and actually getting in the studio, and then of course the editing.
Sure.
That is very time intensive. And then after, we've gotten in the groove, we've probably done 10 episodes, it becomes more in that optimization piece where I'm really reviewing analytics and optimizing their YouTube channel and their podcast platforms to make sure that we're growing month over month.
So what I'm hearing you say, in the world of professional grade podcasting, if you're hiring someone like a Madison as your producer, it sounds to me like there are, whether or not it's you, there are writers and like maybe graphic designers, and there's obviously people doing editing, both video and audio. So like there's a lot of different pieces, moving pieces, especially to the launch package, part of the deal.
Yeah.
So like what kinds of people might you be working with on the front end, just to give people an idea of like all that launch package entails?
Yeah, I do have a graphic designer. I'll shout out Derek. He's awesome.
There we go.
He's my go-to. And I've worked with a couple of writers, and so I have people helping me. The thing, I guess you could consider what I do as like an agency, but I'm really, the client is only working with me.
Sure.
So that's kind of the selling point for the business owner. Like they don't want to manage a team.
Right.
They're like, I just want to work with Madison.
You're ultimately responsible for the success or failure of that client's image as it goes into the launch. Where do you see the biggest hiccups come into play? Like what are the biggest, kind of pitfalls and challenges?
Where do I even start? Okay, I feel like a lot of the issues that I see are more like on the marketing side of the podcast because a lot of people will just let me preface this by saying for a lot of my clients, I'm doing the marketing pieces for them. So, but for other podcasts, I see they release an episode and they'll just shout new episode available. And it's like, why would anyone listen? Like what would they get out of it? And I think that goes for anything. Whenever you're posting on social media, always think about your audience in mind of like, what is someone going to get out of this? And if you keep that as your content question before you hit publish, I think you'll see a lot more success with things. But yeah, I feel like that is such it's so common. You see so many people doing that. As a new podcaster, you think that's what you should be doing, and it's absolutely not. Just, and I also see a lot of people not even promote their episodes on social media. They think social media is one thing, my podcast is another. The people who are on the podcast platforms will find the podcast, and that is true. Like, you can optimize for certain things, but why wouldn't you share the podcast episode too? So
absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like I see a lot of issues on the marketing side of things. Or they'll just take random clips from the episode, and then you look at the show notes and you're like, was that in that episode? Like, that doesn't really it's like false advertising, you know? So again, just think about from the perspective of the audience, why would someone listen to this and then feed that content directly to them?
So do you find that marketing ends up being like one of those barriers to entry for people that like maybe want to get started? I know you'd mentioned scared of the camera, not comfortable in front of a microphone. That makes total sense. Is just the idea of marketing just a foreign thing to a lot of people? Or do you really think in today's like social media driven world that marketing is not as difficult?
I mean, I think there are some people who are scared, or they think, I have a personal page and it only has 200 followers, so it's going to take me too long to get it off the ground. I think those are valid concerns. And, I just thought, I had someone ask me a couple of weeks ago, well, do I really need a producer? And I was like, actually, no. Like, you don't have to hire me. You don't have to work with a producer. But I see it as like, would you rather spend all of that time researching, like, how do I actually get the podcast out there? How do I edit? How do I publish it and get eyeballs on it? Like, it just, hiring a professional, whether it's me or someone else, I think just decreases your timeline to success.
Sure. Well, and for a lot of small business owners, you mentioned like time is money. So for those individuals who see value in continuing to do good at the things that they're good at, which is whatever their business model is, then that's an easy allocation of funds to spend on someone that can just help them further their primary mission.
Right. I mean,
we're big here and like kind of staying on the straight and narrow. Like, don't diversify too much. Stay good at what you're good at.
Yeah.
And then hire good people to help you, further that.
You said that so well. I mean, the reason a lot of my clients hire me is because they want to get into the studio and they want to get back to work, and they don't want to ever think about the podcast ever again. They want to come in, do their session, and then forget about it. And I send them all the files. I'm like, hey, check it out before it goes live. And I assume they do. And I know some of my clients, they're like, I don't want to hear my voice. I don't want to watch that. I know what I said. I know what I said, and I trust you to make me look good. And but then I do have clients too who are like, they listen to the episode again, and I don't think it's to, check my work or anything. I think they just wanted to hear what the final product looked like.
Sure.
So.
Okay. So I happen to know, because you bring your clients in here all the time,
Yeah.
basically every week,
Yeah.
that you serve a variety of clients, and those clients are in different industries, but they produce very different content.
Yeah.
Like they're kind of content models, if you will. So talk to me about like what you're seeing change in the industry. You know, we were talking yesterday, I think it was, about like how podcasting doesn't even mean what it did in its infancy, in its early days.
Oh
like
gosh, I'm so excited to talk about this.
It's taken so many different turns.
Yeah. I think, oh my gosh, there are so many variations of what podcasting is now. Like I said, most of my clients who come to me now they have YouTube channel in mind. And whenever I first started 3.5 years ago, all of my clients were audio only. And especially for business owners, you can be so creative. I find they tend to box themselves in. Like they have this idea of, I'm going to have a guest for every episode. I'm going to interview them and I'm going to get clients from that. And I'm like, hold on. Let me burst your bubble there a little bit. And think about it like this for anyone who might be watching or listening. If you are doing 10% of the talking and then you do a call to action at the end for your business, you haven't really sold yourself. Your guest has sold themselves the whole time. So it's just, there's a misalignment.
You're telling me I need to talk more. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Well, for all of my clients who do, I have some clients who do like guest-based shows, and we are really intentional whenever we do the content planning to not make it interview style. And where, I'm going to question, answer. It's more of like a dialogue back and forth, and not in a sneaky way. Like like the format of their show, the guest knows that whenever they come in, but they're able to banter back and forth with their expertise. And I'd love for you to chime in too. But yeah, so that way the spotlight isn't 100% on the guest. They can really supplement what the show is about.
Sure.
So I'll talk about one of my clients, for example. She does a solo podcast and she shares her expertise, and we have a call to action, and she's mentioned having a guest before, and I was like, no, that's not really the format.
Breaks the mold.
But I told her, I can see where a guest would be able to come in if they had a story to tell that would supplement what you're trying to explain. And you can frame the conversation, have the guest come in, like a 5 to 10 minute clip, and then you come back at the end and reframe or like debrief what they said and reiterate your point from the beginning. Just because you have a guest on your show doesn't mean they have to be the show. So anyway, all that to say,
this is the Madison show. That's how we're going to title this one.
Right. Oh God, please don't. But you can be creative just because you see, these are what all of the podcasts that you watch or listen to do does not mean that is what you should do.
Well, and to be fair, like I tell people that when we've seen guests come in to this studio, we've seen everything from the pure, in-person guest format to we've got someone that comes in occasionally and does virtual interviews with someone. We've had people he's connected with in Australia, in England, all over the U.S. But we can put our client in front of a teleprompter with their laptop, and you've done this with your people too. Yeah. So like the idea of like this pure format, two people having a conversation with cameras and mics is only one of so many options nowadays.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun to see people. Actually, great example. We had a client come in here yesterday, and it was him and two guests, and they dialogued the whole time. They had conversation while they were building a Lego set.
Okay.
On this table. They were building together and having deep conversation. And I was like, well, that's a cool format.
Yeah.
I never thought of that before. You know, I'm
Kinda-
sure it's
kinda
not
like
an
Hot
original thought,
Ones,
but yeah,
where they-
exactly.
the chicken wings,
Right.
progressively hotter.
So
And I've had people come to me and they're like, I want to do a Hot Ones show. And I'm like, that idea has been taken.
try again.
But what would make sense for your business?
Yeah.
How can we start with that idea and make it yours? Do you have a chicken wing business? No. Okay, so we're not going to do that. So that's an example. Like I have people who are really creative and they come to me, and then I have other people who are boxed in, and so they're somewhere in the middle. Like we can create a unique idea. We don't have to do anything that is already taken, or we can make it yours. We can take inspiration, but we're not going to copy someone else.
So follow up to that, do you think that the individuals behind that project, that idea, or the idea itself is more of a driving factor in the success or failure of that format? You know what I mean? Like, is it the
Yeah.
personalities, or is it the unique format? Or, I mean, obviously it's a combination.
So I think it's like, for a business owner, I would say probably like 50-50,
Okay.
maybe like 60-40, where you can't, I really believe like you can't go in and copy what someone else is doing, like format wise.
Mhm.
However, you can make it you, like your personality, and see success with it. So yeah, that's really hard. I mean, I think every podcast is 100% dependent on the host, and you can want the content, but if you watch for 5 minutes and you're like, I can't stand this host, like they are so dry, or they're not dry, and like their personality is too much, like it doesn't matter how good the content is, you're gonna turn it off.
Or the quality of the recording,
Yeah, that too.
or not.
I think people are a little bit more lenient with
Sure.
the quality than host personality.
Makes sense.
So something to keep in mind.
Mhm.
If for some reason you're not getting traction, it's like, am I portraying myself in the way that I need to be?
Might need to pull Skip in here. Might be time to hang it up. Skip. That makes sense. Yeah, I can relate to that. Having gone through a couple podcasts where like they might have been recommended to me, and I'll go, try it out. It's like I want to listen,
Yeah.
or engage, and it's not there. But I think the good news is it's not that there's oversaturation. I don't think in 2026, is there oversaturation of the podcast market, or is it just that it takes a little bit more time to find the formats and the conversation that your listeners are looking for? What do you think?
I think there's oversaturation of bad podcasts.
Okay.
Like I think people who go into it without a plan and they just kind of go off the cuff, and there's a lot of detours throughout the episode, and at the end they're like, I think that was okay. I'm going to put that out there. And it's like, I think there's too much of that. But I think there's plenty of room for great podcasts.
Sure.
And yeah, I'll leave it at that.
I like it. All right. So we can't not talk about artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
AI.
I was waiting for this one.
So where have you seen AI being most influential in the podcast space? I mean, you and I both use tools with AI built in, but like really the sky's the limit in how people are using it.
Yeah. This is I was actually invited to do a live show with I don't think he considers himself a podcaster, but I guess the medium it was we met virtually, and he does a weekly live show, like a live stream.
Okay.
So, and the topic was AI, because I had done a poll on LinkedIn because I was really frustrated with I was doing some research for a client. We were about to launch the podcast, and I was doing some naming research. So I was looking at different podcasts, like searching different terms on Apple Podcasts, and I kept seeing these podcast logos, and they looked like AI generated logos. Like, there's some distinctive marks that indicate AI. And they were like 3-minute episodes. And I was like, what is this? So I clicked play on a couple of them. First 30 seconds was just ads. And then it was like these AI voiced, like clearly AI voices. And I was like, when is the episode going to start? Turns out that was the episode. There was never actually a human involved in the episode. So I did some research on this. There is a company, I'm not going to name them. There's probably multiple companies, so it doesn't matter anyway. But they are putting out like thousands of episodes each week of just AI generated content. They're not even checking what the content is. They're having an AI personality that they've created, like dozens of AI personalities, hosts they're calling them, and they voice the content, and then it's automatically distributed. No, there's no human in that process at all. So I put the poll on LinkedIn. Is anyone listening to this crap? I didn't say it like that, but that was basically the gist of it. Like, who is listening? There must be some kind of market for this. And what I've come to learn is I think they're getting enough revenue from the few downloads that they're getting of people like me who are accidentally clicking like, what is this? And those ads that are like, the first 30 seconds, they do a mid-roll 30 seconds, and then the last 30 seconds of a 3-minute podcast. So it's like 50% ads. Wow. They're getting, pennies basically, but the cost is so low to produce these because it's all AI that they're like, yeah, we'll crank out, 5,000 of these a week and we'll get some revenue off of it, and that's their whole business model. So anyway, that is on the far end of the spectrum. That is like the type of AI that I despise, and we could discuss that. But I think,
is there a world where those platforms at some point, like the Spotify's and the Apples, would push back against?
Well,
that
I know
kind
they
of
do
content?
with music, but I don't. I would hope, but like how would you even monitor that, and how much with podcasting, like how much AI is like the limit?
Sure.
Because I know people who will go to Claude or ChatGPT and help get help with like outlining their podcast, maybe even scripting it, which again, I don't like scripts, but to each their own. But they know if that outline is accurate to like the content, because they're the business owner, that they have their own expertise. So they're actually doing the content. Is that too much AI? Should Spotify say, no, this was AI generated? I don't think so, but.
And then the sponsors that are part of those short episodes. I mean, there's got to be humans behind that marketing department. That's I don't know.
I don't know.
That's interesting. Okay.
I mean, they're probably thinking, we're buying the ads for pennies also. I will say, like, monetization is kind of weird to me. I don't do a lot of it because again, business owners, they're monetizing in a different way, because if they're selling ad placements, they are not converting clients. And the ROI for converting a client is like 10,000 times more than like selling an ad placement, just because of the value of their client. They get one client from a podcast episode versus someone buys something from a sponsor ad, then they might see like a couple of dollars from that. So we're working on a different type of monetization than people usually think of whenever they think of podcast monetization.
That makes sense. For the small business owner, you're right. I mean, the return on getting a client, a sale through hearing an episode is so much greater.
And it works because they're building a relationship through like a visual or audio medium, as opposed to, posting something on LinkedIn, and it's just kind of, you have your voice. People can see your personality. They feel like they know you whenever they put their headphones on, and you're talking to them while they're at home or in the car. They feel like they know you.
Sure. Yeah, we talk about like in the video space, it's one thing to hear somebody, but it is another thing entirely to see them and hear them.
Yeah.
So I've heard people say it's not an original thought, but it's a trust multiplier, I think is the phrase, where you can like see and hear someone, and over time you do develop somewhat of a relationship, even though you might never be in the same room with that person.
Yeah.
But to be able to gain that respect and trust in someone on the other side of a voice and a face.
And it happens with social media. Like I follow people and that I've never met before, and I feel like I know them because I see what they're posting. But whenever you just see something because you're scrolling, it's a lot different than you see an episode, you opt into clicking play, you stick with them for 20 to 30 minutes. Like that's a different level of commitment.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so last question on podcasting. Are there trends that you are seeing emerge? Here we are, 2026, January. As of recording, are you seeing any trends emerging you think people should pay attention to in the podcast space?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about a couple of them, like just the change in what a good podcast format is. Like it doesn't even don't kill me for saying this, but like it doesn't have to be in a studio.
Sure.
But
it could be in 148 Studios.
It could be.
Okay.
It could be.
All right.
And I'll give an example. I have a client and he has clients all over the state. And so we actually travel. Like I take my equipment with him across the state, set up a studio he'll have a guest on, I'll get some B-roll in that town, and then we'll do like a studio debrief session. We'll come to 148. But it's a little bit unique because no one else is traveling to all of those different towns for their podcast. And so again, the format is unique, but also the host is bringing something unique with his personality too. So going back to your question from earlier about which is more important.
Yeah, right. The host or the format. Yeah.
Both.
Right.
Because, I mean, there are people in his industry that are doing studio interviews. And so on one hand, it's like, well, do I want to get that content from him or do I want to get the content from these other people? Well, they might lean more towards him because of personality, but also because like the format is unique too. So anyway, going back to your current question, trends that people should be paying attention to. I think the idea of what a podcast has been evolving and is continuing to evolve because, like I said, 3.5 years ago, whenever I first started, I had 100% of my clients were audio only. They weren't even considering video, like maybe clips for social media. Now people are coming to me and they're not even considering doing audio only. They're like, no, it has to be video. I have to have a YouTube channel. I have to have tons of clips for social media, and I need all of these other assets that play into my other marketing channels too. So that has evolved, and format, like how that looks outside of a studio or being creative inside the studio, has evolved. And of course, AI. And I would urge people to be creative with that too.
Sure.
Like, don't just outsource your brain. And I sound like one of those AI haters. Like I use AI. I try to limit it because I feel like my creativity is just like sucked out of my brain whenever I go to Claude is my preferred. But yeah, just like trust your own brain to do the work, and then use AI to supplement if you like. Oh, please don't use AI to edit your podcast. I'm not even saying you have to hire me, but like hire an editor that knows what they're doing, because I talked to a podcast host who was using AI to edit their podcast, and I went and listened to some of their episodes, and it was very choppy because AI was removing all of the filler words. That was like something they were opting into. But a lot of people will say, and like go into another word or and sometimes you shouldn't cut the word like because they're saying they like something.
Right.
And anyway, I know AI is getting smarter, but even 2 months ago, that was an issue that I was seeing. I said, please just stop using that filler remover thing. Just clean up the quality a little bit. And like, if you don't have the editing skills, you don't have the budget to hire an editor, just like, don't do that. Please. And yeah, so limiting AI or just being smart with it, I would say that's like a trend that people should be aware of.
Yeah. Nothing irks me more than when I'm watching shorts on social and I see the captions and you're like, I know there's an opportunity to have proofread those captions, but they're not proofread. And so there's errors or misinterpretations of the word that was said. And it's like that's not what I just heard, but that is the word, on screen. So that's a little thing, but I think it speaks to the quality, the professionalism, the kind of the end goal.
Yeah. I think one last thing, I don't know if you had other things that you wanted to talk about too, but one thing I do want to mention is just society has really gone on this whole like AI technology. We have to be more productive, tongue twister. And I think we are coming back to, or a lot of people are coming back to this being more intentional, slower, like take the time to proofread the captions because you saw that and now you probably have a bad or not as great of a perception of that person that put out that content because you saw like, oh, they kind of cut some corners here. They were kind of lazy with that. So just taking the time to do things the right way is really important, especially with my clients who are business owners, because your podcast is a portrayal of your brand and the quality that you stand for.
Absolutely. Yeah, when you put it like that, it's a simple choice as to how you choose to approach the production of everything. So, all right, so let's end on a happy note here.
Okay. Yeah.
What excites you most today about the work you're doing in the podcasting space?
Oh my gosh.
What I would say, what brings you to work every day, but work is like wherever your clients are.
Yeah.
So
I really do have the best clients. Like I'm excited about every project that I take on and just seeing it come from a little bitty idea. They have a goal. They want to put themselves out there on the internet, and that's really hard to do sometimes. And seeing it work for their business, like knowing that the work that I do has an impact, even though like podcasting, it sounds kind of silly, but it does have an effect on someone's business. What more could I ask for?
Great answer. I love it. So if people want to connect with you, where can they find you? Social media, website?
Yeah, I'm most active on LinkedIn, but if someone wants to reach out to me, they can do that on my website, SpeakEasyProductions.co.
Perfect. We'll put all the links in the description.
We didn't even talk about SpeakEasy.
You know what? We didn't. So let's pump the brakes a little bit.
Okay.
Talk to me. Yeah, we did coast right through that. And I did have it on my notes. So yeah, SpeakEasy Productions.
Yeah.
So the name of the company.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
There's really not a great story here. I'm sorry I said that. But I really it was at that point, I had a couple of clients and I was like, okay, I have to create social media. I need a website, but it can't just be MadisonMcCann.com. I mean, maybe it could, but I just wasn't really excited about that. And I was sitting in bed. This process probably went on for days, if not weeks, where I was just like, what is going to be the name of my business? And I'm a perfectionist, so I was really laboring over this. And the word just came to me. I was laying in bed and I couldn't sleep, and it was just SpeakEasy, and I was like, that's it. And speakeasies are cool, the whole prohibition thing, but really the words speak easy. When I work with clients, all they have to do is speak and I make it easy for them. It just, I don't know. It just made so much sense in my brain.
It makes total sense.
Yeah.
I get it. Well, thanks for joining me today. We've been talking about this for a long time. And maybe as trends change and things evolve, I'll just need to get you back on mic. We'll talk about more.
Maybe we need to do another mic check panel or
there we go.
Something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's been a long time coming. When we host events here at the studio, that was the first of 2 podcast kind of panel discussions we've had. But yeah, it's probably time to get the gang back together and get the community involved here and, bring people together around the idea of podcasting.
Let's do it.
So I love it. Thanks, Madison.
Okay. Thanks, Daniel.